Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Locker Room Talk. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some trade rumors. Some of them I found online, some of them I cooked up myself. Also be looking at the free agents on where I think they're going to be going. So, without further ado, let's just get into it right now. And the most recent trade that just happened, the New York Knicks have traded Bogdanovich, 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges to the Brooklyn Nets for Mikal Bridges. I think this is just an amazing trade for both sides. When we were kind of looking back at the KD trade, and we saw what the Nets got for KD, it wasn't that much. You get Bridges. I think they got a couple picks. You get Bridges, Cam Johnson, and now they turned Bridges into 5 first-round picks and Bogdanovich, I guess. But are they going to play him? Probably not so much. They might trade him to another team. But, he is reunited with the Nets. So, now we're looking at New York, and they just have the Nova boys. Like, this is crazy. They have Jalen Brunson, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Bridges. It's exciting news. We'll see what happens, what they're going to do with their other pieces. Julius Randle, Isaiah Hartenstein. Robinson's probably out as well. I think he's a free agent. But this is a great trade for the Knicks. You get your scorer and another great defender, OG Anunoby as well, which we'll get into a little later. But the one thing when I think of the New York Knicks is who's going to be the center. Because, they probably, unless they sign Hartenstein on like a minimum really low deal, who's going to be their center? Because Robinson's probably gone. They're going to have to probably just get a veteran minimum center and probably get exposed by big men around the league. You do get these 3 or 4 guys together now, which is a great move. But, yeah, it's maybe their front court is looking a little lack, especially with Julius. Like I was saying, Julius Randle is probably on his way out. I do think they should trade Julius. I think Julius Randle should go to the OKC Thunder. But yeah, OG Anunoby, he declined to. I think it was franchise tag or something like that. He declined to sign that. He's going to become a free agent. Most likely, a lot of signs are showing that he will. I think it's like 60-40. 60% he's going to sign with the Knicks again. 40 he'll go another team. And if you're looking at OG going to another team, we'll get into that later, so I won't spoil it. So another thing that I've seen is that the Rockets are eyeing Marcus Smart in a draft trade down. Now the draft happens tonight. I'm recording this right before the draft. So I'm sure maybe some of these trades have or will have gone down. Some of them surprising moves might happen. But Rockets are eyeing Marcus Smart in a draft trade down. I think this is a pretty good move for Houston. Who they could draft some young buck, but I think they're going for more of a win now kind of scenario. Win now. They don't have. At least I don't think they have the pieces to get a championship. But Marcus Smart, they're bringing in more defense. Fred VanVleet definitely got exposed. He's not a defender, but definitely got exposed. And then, there goes my ball. But, we're talking about guys like Marcus Smart, who can both create offensively and defensively. I think it'd be a great move for Houston. And the Grizzlies would trade down, probably select a big man. They need a big man, but that's not the only thing the Rockets are looking to acquire in this offseason. I've seen reports, maybe you have as well, that the Houston Rockets are looking to sign Kevin Durant in a trade with the Phoenix Suns. Now, at first, they said they were willing to move Alperen Sengun, and if they do make that trade, they send him a bunch of first to Phoenix, probably another player like Tari Eason or something, and Sengun. In 5 years, we'll look at this trade, and we just asked our man Steve Harvey if he thinks this is a good trade.
Oh, hell no.
Exactly, man. Steve Harvey knows this is would be a terrible move. I mean, they'll get a scorer, and they'll probably be. I mean, I did say that after getting Pascal Siakam, the Indiana Pacers aren't gonna make him a championship contender. I said they won't even make it past the first round, and boy was I wrong. But I mean, they wouldn't have if I'll go on my little rant. If the Bucks weren't hurt. They wouldn't have went on. And then, I mean, some Knicks were hurt in that series. Jalen Brunson, I mean, that was the end of the series. But Josh Hart got hurt. Robinson was out. There's a lot of injuries that the Pacers moved on. But, so, but, like, to get KD, I mean, you'd add KD, Fred VanVleet. They probably wouldn't get Marcus Smart then. So, Fred VanVleet, who's there? Oh, Jalen, oh my gosh, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Kevin Durant, and then their center. They'd have to find a new center, I think. Probably just sign, if they could get Claxton. We'll talk about that a little later, but I don't think this would be a good move. And then I also saw that there's no possible way that this trade would ever happen because I think the Phoenix Suns want to run it back. See if they can not get swept in the first round. But another thing, speaking of Marcus Smart, I had my own potential trade idea, and that involves the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, you might be thinking that, oh, he's a Bucks fan, of course nobody's going to accept this trade. But I think this is a great trade for both sides. Now, so my potential trade idea was the Milwaukee Bucks get Marcus Smart and probably somebody else for Brook Lopez and Pat Connaughton or Bobby Portis. I would rather... If I were the Bucks, I would rather send out Brook Lopez because he's older. But they'd probably want Bobby Portis. But Milwaukee gets a great defender. And then Memphis gets a much-needed center. I mean, they got rid of Steven Adams. I mean, he was hurt all the time for the Grizzlies. I mean, right now they have... They got rid of Tillman. So, honestly, I don't even think who's the center right now for the Memphis Grizzlies? I might be exposing myself, but... Then they get a big man shooting center in either Bobby Portis or Brook Lopez that spreads the floor, which would work perfectly alongside Ja Morant. I think that would be an amazing move for both sides. So, and they also get Pat Connaughton, a veteran. So we'll see what happens, but that's just my potential trade idea. Moving on, let's talk about Nick Claxton, going back to the Brooklyn Nets. It looks like they're going to be rebuilding. They got rid of Bridges. Probably are looking to move Ben Simmons and Cam Johnson. Shout out to my guy Cam Thomas. I love Cam Thomas, man. He's future MVP. He will be. Trust me. Cam Thomas will be a future MVP. It reminds me a lot of James Harden the way he plays. And he's undersized as a guard, and he's incredible scorer. Needs to work on his defense and a little bit of his playmaking, but he's still young. So shout out to Cam Thomas. But they'll probably be looking to build around Cam Thomas. I might just be a Cam Thomas super fan, but I think he's going to be the franchise guy there. So they're probably looking to actually Nick Claxton. He's not even a trade; he's a free agent. But he's either looking to re-sign with Brooklyn, which I think they're saying I saw sources were saying that Nick Claxton is either going to re-sign with Brooklyn. Or go to the New Orleans Pelicans because they're probably going to get rid of, or Valanciunas isn't going to re-sign there. So I think this would be we'll talk about my Pelicans, but not my Pelicans, but we'll talk about the Pelicans a little later. So the teams I think Nick Claxton would fit best on are going to be, I can see him with the Clippers or the Suns because they do need center help. I mean, Zubac is great, but he'd be a great bench center, and then Nurk is good, but, I mean, in the playoffs, no. But the Suns probably don't have enough money to sign him. I could see him on the Warriors. That would be a great move by Golden State. And also OKC. They can move Chet to the power forward. But there's one team that I really do like, and that is if Nick Claxton were to decide to sign with the Orlando Magic. Another young player signing with an even younger team. They have just a great future ahead of themselves with Banchero, the Wagner brothers, Jalen Suggs, probably will get rid of Wendell Carter Jr. then, and then Jonathan Isaac coming off the bench for their defensive threat, or he could play the power forward. Or no, yeah, he'd probably come off the bench. Cole Anthony as well. Yeah, I think this would be a great move by the Magic, and I think the Magic should push forward to be the number one option to sign Nick Claxton. Moving on, let's talk about Trae Young. Trae Young has been in trade talks for quite a while now, at least the past year. The Hawks were thinking, do we either ship off Trae Young or do we ship off DeJounte Murray? And they were, I think at least they should ship off Trae Young just because efficiency-wise, Trae Young, I mean, he's a great scorer, great player, amazing playmaker, but efficiency-wise, he's not a great player in that regard. So I think the teams were looking to sign with the Pelicans, which like I said, we'll talk about it a little bit later. I don't think that, or let's talk about it now. I don't think it'd be a great move for the Pelicans. To be honest, I think this is my take. I think the Pelicans should get rid of C.J. McCollum. I mean, he can come to the Bucks, play with Dame. Bucks need a shooting guard. They're not going to have Malik Beasley, most likely. Should get rid of Brandon Ingram, which we will talk about next. And, well, let's talk about it now. Brandon Ingram, I can see him being moved to either the Rockets, the 76ers, or the Warriors. I think any of those teams would be a great fit for him. So, like I was saying, I think Trae Young would be great with Zion, but I think the Pelicans are probably going to get rid of Valanciunas, probably keep Herbert Jones and all the other goons. So, I think the Pelicans should just get rid of everybody but Zion and just tank and try and build a whole team around Zion with newer draft picks that would look better in the future. You know, you want Zion to survive a couple of seasons without being injured before you start building into championship mode. Because if they do, even if they do sign Trae Young or trade for Trae Young, I think that the Pelicans, they're not going to win a championship. So it's like, why are you going to be making these moves? You know, sure, they're going to win, but they're not going to win a championship. So that's at least what I think. But the other teams involved in the Trae Young were the Los Angeles Lakers, because who knows what's going to happen with D'Angelo Russell. I think it'd be pretty good for the Lakers to sign Trae Young, and then also, or trade for Trae Young. Then also the San Antonio Spurs. Now, I've seen both sides of this where I've been talking to a couple of my friends that like, it would be terrible. I think it'd be a great move because you get Trae Young going alongside Wembanyama. He's going to be able to make for him. I mean, that's the one thing this season when we were watching the Spurs, especially early on, they weren't feeding Wembanyama the ball when he was open under the rim. And someone like a Trae Young or even Alonzo Ball, if he's healthy, that's a big if. But I think it would be a great move to get Trae Young if you're the Spurs. You offload probably a pick, probably maybe like 2 picks and then a player. So we'll see what happens there. Now, Zach LaVine. Now, I have no idea. I could see Zach LaVine with OKC, but I don't really know because I think the Bulls should definitely just offload everybody on their team. LaVine, Lonzo. I mean, they got rid of Caruso already, but LaVine, Lonzo, DeMar, Vucevic. I think they should just get rid of everybody and just rebuild around just a whole new person. They should just look for the future. But now let's kind of move more into free agents. Let's talk about DeMar DeRozan. Now, I think DeMar DeRozan should not. I think he's a free agent. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not. I don't know. Hold on. We got the internet. Is DeMar DeRozan, a free agent? DeMar DeRozan will be a free agent this offseason after 3. Yeah, so he is a free agent. So I think DeMar should either go back to Toronto, where he can finish his career there. I mean, there'll be a play-in team there. But I think where he should actually go is, and it would be crazy if we talked about it a little earlier, Trae Young went there, the San Antonio Spurs. Imagine that. They have Trae Young, maybe Devin Vassell. I don't know if they would have to get rid of him in order to get Trae Young. Then DeMar, and then They'd probably get rid of what's that guy's name? He's got the buzz cut. He's got the Jeremy Shohan. Probably have to get rid of him in order to get Trae Young. And then Wembanyama. Imagine that. Trae Young, DeMar, and Wembanyama. That would be a great team. They're definitely a playoff team. It would help Wemby grow. I think so. If I'm the San Antonio Spurs, I'm pursuing after getting back DeMar DeRozan and pursuing Trae Young. And then that puts you in that, you're up there. Honestly, I think that puts you not at the top of the conference, but it puts you near the top. I think you'd become either probably the 5th or 6th seed, or 6th, 5th, or 4th seed if you're the San Antonio Spurs. But then you gotta get depth for your bench, and that's something that they need to do. But yeah, I think that'd be a great move for DeMar and the Spurs. Let's talk about Paul George. Now, early on, Paul George was linked to the New York Knicks. Well, not anymore since they got Bridges, but the 76ers as well. And I know Embiid was on I think it was NBA TNT. He was talking to Paul George. He's like, you should come to the 76ers. But now sources are saying that he wants to stay on the West Coast and re-sign with the Clippers. But if he does leave the Los Angeles Clippers, you're kind of thinking that, what do the Clippers do? Because then James Harden probably leaves. Now you're stuck with Kawhi Leonard and old Westbrook and Norman Powell, I guess. That's pretty much it. But, yeah, if you're the Clippers and Paul George decides to leave, then you're like, you probably have to get rid of Kawhi. At least I would. I mean, maybe you give it a season to see, or like half of a season to see if your team is doing well, and then midway you would trade Kawhi and look up for picks. I mean, if Kawhi, like I said, the Spurs, I mean, they would be a great team, a great fit for Kawhi if he could go back there. So yeah, I don't know. The Clippers is just, it's a whole mess. I mean, they're getting a whole new rebranding, whole new stadium next season. So maybe Paul George will want to stay there. Now let's move on to OG Anunoby. Now, OG, he declined I think his player option with the Knicks. So making him become a free agent. Now, he's either going to re-sign with the Knicks or he can go to any team. I think any team in the league would want OG Anunoby. Just a great player, great defensive player. So he could just go anywhere. Same thing with Bruce Brown. Another defensive, probably 6-man, could be your shooting guard, starting shooting guard. Bruce Brown, like I said, he can go to any team. Most likely these two guys will, if they don't re-sign with their teams, Bruce Brown probably won't re-sign with the Raptors, but they're going to go to a contender. I think that'd be a great move for them. And then, like, DeMar DeRozan. Now, speaking of our penultimate player, Klay Thompson. Now, Klay Thompson's most likely not going to re-sign with the Warriors. Or the Warriors aren't going to re-sign Klay Thompson. Where do you think Klay Thompson's going to go? Now, I thought of all the teams. He's probably going to go somewhere warm. He's going to want to go somewhere warm. And I was like, maybe he'll stay in the West Coast, but I think he's going to try his luck. I think he's going to go to Miami. Now, if Miami decides to keep Jimmy Butler and Jimmy Butler wants to re-sign there, I think that would be a great addition. I mean, Klay Thompson, I think it'll be like a revenge-esque season for Klay. I mean, he had a mediocre, I said subpar season. He had some games that were great, but most of them weren't. When he was coming off the bench, he was doing well, but in the playoffs, no. But I think Miami would be a great fit for Klay Thompson. I mean, another shooter. They would play alongside Tyler Hero. Probably move Tyler to they have Terry Rozier too. So probably move Klay to the 3. I mean, that'd be a little bit difficult. But no, then what do you do with... Klay would probably come off the bench there. Or Rozier would come off the bench. Probably Klay. But I think it would be a pretty good fit for Miami. Now let's move on to our last player. Now there's so many other free agents that we could get to. Some other trade talks we could get to. So if you have any, list them in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of not only my picks, if you think they're right or I'm just crazy, but also your ideas of where you think these players are going to end up, what team should pursue which player, all that good stuff. So let's move on to our final player. Now, it's not a really big name player, but let's talk about Malik Beasley. Now, had a great beginning to middle season with the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, they had him on a minimum deal. I think it was like $2 million a year, which was a complete steal. I mean, he made the 3-point contest. Now, if we're looking towards the end of the season, it didn't look like he should have made the 3-point contest, but Malik Beasley probably not going to re-sign with the Milwaukee Bucks, so he's going to be a free agent. I was thinking, which team would Malik best fit in with? And the team that came to mind was the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I think it'd be a great fit because Dallas needs a shooter. Probably going to get rid of Tim Hardaway Jr., Derek Jones Jr. I mean, he is a shooter, but not really. They need that 3-and-D guy. Well, D guy. If you know, you know. But Malik Beasley, yeah, I think he's a great addition to the Dallas Mavericks. So, with that being said, like I said, leave your suggestions and stuff in the comments below. But yeah, that's going to do it. Peace.